Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to say that this young lady, Janet, has done a great job, and so have you, to put together all of this amazing opportunity. It's going to carry on for some time. And I was tickled. I met Janet a couple of months ago, and she was talking about titled tales and what they wanted to do, and that things first would be the topic for tonight. And then as she told me she was from Baltimore, so that made me start thinking about Baltimore, where I was born, and I grew up in the city for a few years, and then moved out to the county. And part of the story tonight is about mustering up courage so that you can try first things. My dad was cool about that. He was always trying something new. Some good, some bad. But he taught me a lot about having courage to step out, to try something you didn't know about, whether it works or not. It's always worth investigating, and it's worth remembering. So my story is about Great Pyrenees dogs. If you haven't seen Great Pyrenees, they're big. They're big white dogs. As a matter of fact, just this day, there was a picture of a polar bear on the street in this frozen weather, and they were claiming it was here in South Carolina, and that was the beginning of my story. Back when I was just a tiker, my dad saw in the Baltimore Sun newspaper a story by the editor who said that he had a Great Pyrenees dog, he couldn't keep it anymore, it had to be adopted. He lived in an apartment, the dog was bought as a pup, a little 10, 20-pound pup. It grew and grew and grew. He would let it out on the balcony. The neighbors thought he had a polar bear. That dog grew to like 130 pounds, and everybody was afraid of it. He wasn't allowed to keep in the city anymore. Dad piped up, got in touch with the paper, traveled into the city, brought this dog home, and Valley was our first Great Pyrenees. Of course, Dad couldn't leave it at that. He decided he had to find another Great Pyrenees for Valley to meet, started searching for a girl to bring to town, found one in Nova Scotia, and flew it to Baltimore. And Belle, who came to Baltimore, came into the Friendship Airport. Back in those days, that was a pretty cool little spot. We could go there every day after school, go out on the tarmac and visit our dog for a month, and she was being traveled around on the baggage carts to check out all the airplanes while she was stuck there in quarantine. You never know what a first is going to lead to, though. So this one first thing just multiplied and multiplied and has lived on for years. There was a day we had 13 Great Pyrenees, 16 Siamese cats, and a blizzard. How appropriate is that for this week? And of course, Dad ran out of food, so he sent me and my sister off to go find food at the local grocery store. We had to get up in our snow clothes and climb through the snow drifts and make it next door, where the neighbor got our clothes dried, gave us hot chocolate, put us back in our costumes, and sent us off to the grocery store, which was next door. And we then got all the food we could get and piled it with us back next door to feed the dogs and the cats so we could get through the hurricane, or the blizzard. That was another first. That's a blizzard in Baltimore with snow drifts that were so high that we did stay in our homes for 2 weeks, except for that run for dog food. Another first. When I was a little bit older, I found out that my goal in life was going to be a very simple goal. I had to discover something that nobody else knew about. That was kind of tricky. I was at that time in the Women's Army Corps. I had been told I couldn't make the military my goal for my life because, hey, it's over in 20 years. You got to make a long-range goal. So that was my first goal that I had to find a way to challenge and deal with. Let's jump forward about 25 years, retired from the Navy, off to college to learn biology so I could teach at the local community college, and I'm studying biology, and what do? I have to write a paper. I decided that was accomplishing another first. Do what you don't think you can do. I ended up being assigned a project to study the migration of coyotes into the Carolinas at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. I had never seen a coyote in the wild, but by the time we were done, we discovered that coyotes lived throughout most of the United States, and they finally infiltrated the Carolinas in 1996 for sure. I got that in writing. How cool. I also learned that Great Pyrenees are probably the dominant large stark guardian dog to take care of keeping flocks safe and fields safe from predators, particularly coyotes. I didn't know, I knew them as show dogs. I had one in Westminster Abbey, Winchester breed. I didn't know them as large stock guardian dogs. So God puts me in front of another first. The next thing I know, I'm out on a farm raising goats in Great Pyrenees in the middle of Kentucky. And you just never know how much one little first will lead to another first. It leads to another first and another first and another first. And I was delivering 40 babies a month in this winter in Kentucky. Baby goats, mind you. With Great Pyrenees keeping guard. Same story. Well, that's another generation. I move on a little further. I moved down to Georgetown, South Carolina. I got here about 6 or 7 years ago. A couple of years ago, between the antlers opens up, I look across the bay. There are Great Pyrenees puppies. Hallelujah! I'm in a place with Great Pyrenees. They just keep popping up in my life. And we're blessed to be here now with a lot of Great Pyrenees in Georgetown. That's pretty cool. They still are great show dogs, great pet dogs, great livestock guardians. They will guard the families they're living with. You'll hear them barking because they don't want anybody invading their space. And occasionally they get out because they like to guard everybody in the whole city. So you'll see these big white 130-pound dogs wandering the streets with their owners usually. They're fabulous pets. I love living with them, and that's a ton of firsts because here I am enjoying them again. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all.